We already have finished with the first 5 consciousnesses. We already have finished with mono consciousness, which is the 6th one. And we have talked about the 7th one for a few sessions. Now let's continue with the 7th consciousness. The function of the 7th consciousness, of course in the Sanskrit language, it's manas, bujnana, is to continually turn its eyes towards the 8th consciousness, the alliance as self, and to attach to it, leading our lives to a state of extreme self-centeredness and ego devotion. What does that mean? The 7th consciousness, the manas, in every consciousness there is the perceiver and that being perceived. 尖分, 相分. The perceiver is the 尖分. That being perceived is the 相分. So every consciousness has that function. And actually every consciousness has four aspects to it. Other than just the perceiver and that being perceived, there's also the witnessing aspect. 争分, also the re-witnessing aspect, 智争分. Now we just talked about the perceiver and that being perceived. The 7th consciousness has an object that's being perceived, the 相分. And what is the object of the 7th consciousness? The object is the perceiver, the perceiving aspect of the 8th consciousness. That's very difficult to comprehend. Not easy to understand, but you really have to think about it before you understand what I'm talking about. So, the 7th consciousness always perceived the 8th consciousness, the perceiving part of the 8th consciousness as I. You know, the 8th consciousness is a store consciousness that stores everything, and it itself has a perceiver function. And it perceives everything. The objects of the 8th consciousness, what does it include? It includes the whole universe. It includes your body, 根身. It includes the whole universe, 气界. It includes the seeds, the latent energy, 种子. The alaya consciousness is the very center of all these consciousnesses. Its perceiving aspect is that being perceived by the 7th consciousness. So the 7th consciousness perceive the perceiving aspect of the 8th consciousness as a what? As a self. This is me. This is my ego. You know, this is what I have. So you see everything with a self-centeredness conceptualization in it. So you conceptualize everything into a self. This is me. This is my identity. That's the problem. That creates the problems of reincarnation. So the main features of the manas, the 7th consciousness, is, I summarize 3 main features of it. It constitutes a latent region of the mind that is not obvious and is always functioning subliminally. Remember the word subliminal. Subliminal is something that you don't realize. You are doing that, you don't realize it. You're being egoistic, you don't realize it. You're being self-centered, you don't realize it. You look at everything with bias and you don't realize it. You're involved with self-love, self-deceit, self-arrogance. and self-greediness, and you don't realize it because it's subliminal. Subliminal is really the deep level of the mind. That's number one. Number two, it is always active without interruption. The seventh consciousness never stops. The I, the ego, it never stops. The first five consciousnesses stop when you're sleeping. When you're at night, you close your eyes, your ears don't hear anything, your tongue is not tasting, your nose is not smelling any frequencies and all that. All your five consciousnesses stopped when you're sleeping. But your seventh consciousness is always active without interruption. In other words, even in your dream, you are selfish. Even in your dream, you are egoistic. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a dream. It would be your dream, an individual's dream. Third, it perceives the alias perceiving aspect as the subject, thereby always placing the I at the center of any event, rendering one incapable of being unbiased. That's the reason why you've always been complaining about other people. Why did they treat me like that? Why did they talk to me like that? Why? How come? I'll give you an example. If you are encountering a dominative self, someone who is dominating, you don't do this, you don't do that, someone's dominating. You thought that guy, that person is dominating me. It's not right. I'm complaining. I'm angry. I'm exasperated. But actually, do you know that you are using your protective ego, your protective self, at the same time defending that dominating self? You don't know. You thought that it's not right that you're being treated that way. You're actually using yourself to defend against being treated that way. You're using a self against another self. And you think you are justified in complaining. You see what I mean? Yes. All right? You see what I mean? Rendering one incapable of being unbiased. We're always biased. Let's get into the next. The four major afflictions of the manas: self-love, self-pride, self-infatuation, and self-view. Self-love, the love of the ego. You always love your own ego, but you may not know about it. And some people will say, no, sometimes they find that I shouldn't be egoistic. I want to change. I don't want to be egoistic. What is that moment? That's a very slight, short duration moment that you're away from it already. You're away from the manas. Because I want to change. I don't want to be egoistic. You already have fraction of a second thinking that, no, I don't want to be egoistic. You march onto the noble path of enlightenment. But it's just a glimpse. It's just fraction of a second that you are not egoistic. But then when you get back to daily life, you started to be egoistic again. Why? Because we have been habitually egoistic. An egoistic behavior is like a behavior that has been repeated since many life cycles ago. And recently I read some research papers on the arising of hormones inside the body. And when you're angry, when you're greedy, when you're jealous, when you're disappointed, when you're anxious, a certain hormones is being produced in you. Because that anger, that jealousy, that pride trigger your brain to produce such hormone. And that hormone is called peptide hormone. And it habitually is produced if you're infuriated, if you're angry, then it produces to trigger your anger. And if you have been habitually repeating that peptide has a time pattern to come up. It induces you to produce itself. This is, in other words, if you're always been producing a peptide, a hormones inside your body, that you want to have that instinct of gambling in you to get the pleasure, satisfaction. At about 9 o'clock at night, you're thinking of going to the casino again because you like that. You like the atmosphere. You like the atmosphere around. You like that wheel that turns around. You like the blackjack and all that and dice. You like that atmosphere. You have been habitually, the peptide will come up. All kinds of habitual tendency is because of that physical production of hormones. And that's only just physical. But how about the mental part of it? The mental part of it is created by, right here, the manas vijnana. The manas vijnana actually dominates the body, actually helps you to create that physiological change in your body. So in other words, a completely compassionate bodhisattva, when he's being infuriated by a party, he would not infuriate himself to scold that person or to blame that person. He would feel that he's so compassionate. He's going through suffering. When he's angry, I shouldn't be angry at him because he's going through suffering. He's producing peptide in his hormones, infuriating him. I should be compassionate to him, not scolding him or not defending myself and put bias on him or her. So in other words, recently we have a lot of occasions we have a few events in Hong Kong about say monks not observing their precepts, and the layman became very angry that monks, some monks are not observing precepts. But when a bodhisattva look at that situation, he will be compassionate to the monk and not identifying that monk and to attack him and to make sure that he went to jail. He won't do that. He would say, oh, that's a suffering. That's a suffering that I should be compassionately helping to relieve. That's a suffering I should compassionately helping to help. Not to say, he is no good. Let's criticize him. Let's put him to jail. You're just defending your own ego at the same time. So when you come up to someone that you criticize, you come up to someone who think was unfair to you, that unfairness is not in that situation, it's in your heart, in your mind. You created that feeling. To a compassionate bodhisattva, there's nothing as unfair. There's nothing as being treated in the wrong way. It's your mind that creates this faction. So, I haven't really started again. The four major afflictions of the manas: self-love, self-pride, self-infatuation, and self-view. So when I was in Hong Kong, I was told to do 2 lectures, and I was reminded by some laymen that maybe I should touch on some current events, like monks not observing precepts, and how do we deal with them. Then I said, everything is created by the mind. It depends on how you look at it. And because everything is created by the mind, it's also created by a common karma. Not just individual karma. It's not produced by individual karma. It's produced by collective karma. You know why some monks are not observing precepts? Because we haven't, laymen included, monks included, we haven't been serious about these things. It's created by common collective karma.